When I was, years ago it was not. It was actually quite a blessing to see that basically you pretty much put in your order, and this was when I was in South Africa when I first was introduced to Islam. You had beautiful butchers. As a matter of fact, most non-Muslims there eat halal meat. That's how big the halal market is in South Africa. But it's absolutely beautiful. But it's, most people put in their order, this is what I want, and it's done, and it's very fresh. It's quite amazing. Now they do have markets that are marketing on the mass scale, non-halal stuff, but the majority of the non-Muslims that I knew in South Africa ate halal meat.
But it is not halal unless you do Allahu Akbar.
It was done that way. The Muslims actually had a monopoly on the meat markets of Cape Town, South Africa. Allah accepts the offering of our hearts. Without this solemn invocation, we are apt to forget the sacredness of life. Again, the right conditions. In order to slaughter this lamb, if I look at the authentic hadiths, I'm actually going to have the sharpest knife, scalpel. It's got to be, you cannot have more than 3 cuts, and if people really know what they're doing, it's usually and it's done. Yeah, as a matter of fact, if you're really skilled, it's just 1. But there's no pain. As a matter of fact, one of the hadiths is that you give water to the animal and the animal will lick the water up out of your hand. Now camels, when they are slaughtered, it's a little different because they're so big, they have a way of tying their feet and all of that to keep them, because it could be rather dangerous when you're trying to, and then they put a spear. Yeah, yes?
Oh. There's something about you're not supposed to, the animal can't see the blade. You're supposed to like hide the blade from the animal.
Yeah, you're not supposed to show the animal the blade. This is the mercy of Allah. That's great. By the way, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to put him on the spot, but this is my son, Bilal. Usually works on Sunday, and I'm so happy to have you with us today. MashaAllah. That's my 22-year-old baby. 21, I'm sorry. He'll be 22 in April. See, my computer keeps me on my dates correct. Don't ever listen to me unless my wife's in the room when it comes to dates. All right. By this invocation, we are reminded that wanton cruelty is not in our thoughts, but only the need for food. So imagine the mercy of Allah that if you are going to slaughter an animal, for the sake of Allah, you must mention His name. The animal must not have any pain, and you must not even show the animal your knife. Which direction does the animal face when you're going to slaughter it? The Qibla. Do you see how the correct conditions must be fulfilled? And just as Sister Sharon was talking about, a lot of people, they are on some kind of a trip. They go to these farms and they want to be able to say they did the sacrifice, but they don't know what they're doing. They have not been educated with the right conditions to fulfill this command of Allah. Every single thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to do, He has given us the correct way to do it. The most humane way to do it. And I want to just touch on this right now, even though I'm jumping around a little bit today. When people are running for president like Donald Trump, and people are saying things about Muslims, hold on, let me, if I may, be the teacher for this few minutes. Because otherwise, can you hear me and hear everybody else too? No. Who would you like to hear? Okay, so listen up. When you have a person spewing hatred toward us, this is the time when we have got to know the right conditions. We have got to know how to do things. We have got to know that we turn away from the ignorant. We say peace to the ignorant. Because you cannot win. I was sitting in the barbershop Saturday morning and somebody started talking about ISIS. Now I lecture at UCF about ISIS. And how that they don't have any military planes. And how can you be scared of a people that don't even have a flag until about 9 months ago? Those people want to hear what I've got to say though. We as Muslims must really guard our souls right now. Because we are under attack more than ever. You see, the people that are, their hearts are diseased out there, they love what Donald Trump is saying. And he's firing up a lot of Muslims. So now they're angry Muslims. Astaghfirullah, I like to kill him. And this is what people are saying. So when you say that, just think about it. When you're sitting in the barber shop, you say, I like to kill him. They say, well, just like I said, those Muslims, they're all terrorists. See, they want to kill us. So we really have to approach this with a lot of wisdom. Yes, Charlie?
I don't know if anyone saw, because they were talking about Donald Trump and how the guy was talking about ISIS. The guy asked him about ISIS and all this other kind of stuff, and how Donald Trump interpreted it. They went back and they saw how John McCain handled it, because there was a woman that said, Obama's an Arab, he doesn't belong here,
Yeah.
and John McCain immediately put her down. And I think I honor that, because that's someone who we should be looking at and listening to, not someone that is saying negative things about every race except his own.
As a matter of fact, Donald Trump said that President Obama was a Muslim. So I don't want to make this a political arena today about political. What I want to encourage you to do, we're talking about Qurbani.
Did you say Donald Trump?
Let's try to keep the dignity in this that is deserving of anything that has Quran and Sunnah in it. We must keep dignity, folks. Because if we give up our dignity, we're no different than them. Because he's the one that is undignified. I'm not going to join in that, and I'm not going to support that. Okay? I'm not going to support that. So, I want to stay on Qurbani. I don't want to talk about Donald Trump anymore, except I'm trying to tell you that more than anything, you need to get your heart right. Because we are under attack like you haven't been in a long time. That is the context and the message that I want you to get out of this today. Okay? Somebody raised their hand. Is it about Qurbani? Yes, brother.
No, I just want to make a comment what he said. McCain made a very polite, statesman-like comment and cut him off. Versus Trump, he made a very offensive thing. But now, he says he's not a politician, but he is. Now he's saying, I love Muslims and I want to appoint somebody Muslim in my cabinet. So it's all politics.
So since this class is not about politics, with your blessing, I would like to talk about something that I think really pleases Allah. Because I don't think what Donald Trump or even John McCain is saying is glorifying Allah right now. So scholars have fixed a proportionate thirds. 1/3 for the poor, 1/3 for your friends and neighbors, and 1/3 for the one making the sacrifice. So look at the beauty of this. Imagine if you do the sacrifice or have it done, and you go to your neighbor and say, oh look, here's a few lamb chops. Yeah. How would that fly in the face of what the world is saying about us right now? I have some meat I'd like to share with you. This is about our sacrifice. For the sake of our poor Muslims in solemn assembly in the precincts of the Haram, our symbolic act finds practical expression and benevolence. Most people, when they go to Hajj today, they pay somebody to do the Qurbani for them. And they don't even see it. They have nothing to do with it whatsoever. They just pay the money. They actually pay it when they sign up for Hajj. Okay, it's just a fee, extra fee. Now the group that I went, we actually, there was a scholar with us from Saudi, and we actually went and did our own sacrifice. I happened to have a fever that day, I think of 105 or something. And I didn't get to go see it in Saudi, but all the other brothers went and actually saw the sacrifice. And one of the brothers did it for me there. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said on the 10th of Dhul Hijjah, there is no better act in the view of Allah than shedding the blood of slaughtered animals. And verily sacrifice earns the approbation of Allah even before the drop of blood of the slaughtered animal falls on the ground. Hence, you should offer it in good spirit. Now, let me tell you what's not a good spirit. Oh my God, every year my wife wants to do this. And it's such a pain in the butt. Then I've got to get up in the morning. Then I got to go this. Then I got to go in this, stand in the heat. It's 40, it's 130 degrees. And that's not a good spirit, folks. That's not the spirit you want to do it in. If that is the spirit, then I would recommend you let somebody else do it and pray that they have the right spirit. It sounds like the place that Sharon was talking about, they didn't have the right spirit. This is one of the reasons that I did it myself years ago in California. I read this hadith, and I wanted to do it in the right spirit. And I am an animal lover, so I knew that the last thing I would ever do is hurt an animal. Qurbani, like zakat, is essential for one who has the financial means. Now, on ICO's website, I believe that a goat, can somebody help me, or a sheep, which is 200 this year?
250.
250, thank you, brother. I was reading very quickly, and then I don't know if they're doing cows or not.
Yeah.
They are. How much was a cow?
150.
A portion was 700 or something.
Yeah, it's much more expensive. If you cannot afford it, it's not incumbent upon you. All right? A lamb was how much? Do you know, brother?
350.
If somebody wants to look it up on their iPhone, ICO,
275.
275?
275, yeah.
Okay.
What was the website?
ICO, Islamic Center, Orlando.
ICO Orlando.
Slaughter of animal can also be offered for each member of one's family. It may be offered, though it is not essential, for one's deceased relations to, in hopes of benediction and blessing for the departed. All the permissible halal domesticated or reared quadrupeds can be offered for Qurbani. Generally, slaughter of goats, sheep, rams, cows, and camels is offered. It is permissible for 7 persons to share the sacrifice of a cow or a camel. So 7 people can get together, pay for that, and then split the meat up. On the condition that no one's share is less than 1/7, and their intention is to offer Qurbani for the sake of Allah. Now, there are just some fiqh things that I'd like to cover for you is the age of the sacrifice. Sacrifice of goat or sheep less than 1 year old is prohibited, unless the sheep is so strong and fat that it looked to be a full 1 year old. Cows should be at least 2 years old, and camels should be no less than 5 years old. Okay. Disqualifying defects. I'm just going to say this because we don't need to read all of this. There's a beautiful hadith about the Sahaba seeing an animal that was defective. We do not use defective things for Allah. We use the best. Okay? We don't give defective gifts, and we don't take defective animals and sacrifice them. So, like you don't say, oh, well, you know, why don't we sacrifice that animal? Because we can't sell that one at the market. It doesn't have any teeth, and that one's ear got bitten off by a wolf. And we don't do that. Okay? We take the very best for Allah, the best animal. Okay? The animal for slaughter should be laid on its left side facing the Kaaba, its throat cut with a sharp knife, and its blood allowed to drain. In the case of a camel, it should be allowed to remain standing after its left 4 legs have been stringed. A sharp spear should then be thrust in its breast and on both sides of its neck, and the blood allowed to drain. It's because of the size of the animal. Okay? So that, I just wanted to touch so that everybody would know about Qurbani. You all know about the conditions of the Eid, and now you know about Qurbani. So we're now going to move into the tafsir class, inshallah. And today we are talking about, Maysoon, I need you. Where are you? Oh, good. We're juggling here. So we're now going to move into the tafsir, and we've been looking at verse 150 and verse 151 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Yes, sister.
Imam Sykes, do we have an arrangement in this class for Qurbani? Like, do people sort of have a system where or can we set up one?
Where's my wife?
We normally do, and what happens was I got lazy this year, so I'm just going to be honest, because I get the animals and then I've got to separate them and do all that kind of stuff. And we've got had a busy week last week, and we're going to have a busy week. I've got to go and pay for it first before, that's the way the guy does it. And so I did not do it this year, no.
In the past, we've always done it.
Yes.
So what that means is that next year, 10 days before, actually about a month before right now, we'd like to form a committee that will handle that, because there's a lot of work in it. In other words, we go get the meat. Let's say that 20 people in this class want to do it. We go get the meat, and we have the responsibility to make sure that 20 people get the right amounts of meat. Well, let's just say that the halal butchers don't exactly say, well, here's all the lamb chops, and here's the legs, and here's the... They don't do it like that. So it's very hard, it's a big responsibility, so we'd like to form a committee next year to handle that. Because like every year we've done it until this, and this year we just found ourselves overwhelmed.
Because we could even distribute it amongst ourselves. That's what people get.
Yeah, and we always did distribute it among ourselves, because we do have people in the class that can really use the meat. You can go through ICO, and ICO will be distributing a lot those portions to the poor in our community, but we used to try to do it. This is the only year we haven't done it. We tried to do it so that our own family could benefit, and it just sort of became impossible to do it this year for us. Okay. So, benefits of purification. What we've been doing is examining about 8 different requirements that are found in verse 150 and verse 151 of Surah Al-Baqarah. The rewards are promised by Allah to the person who purifies his soul by practicing obedient devotion and staying away from distractions like sins and evil. In Surah Taha, verse 76, gardens of lasting bliss graced with flowing streams, and there they will stay. Such is the reward of those who
Purify themselves.
Thank you. Stay with me, folks. Alright? How many people want these blessings? Okay. Does it say that Allah will purify you in this verse? No. You, folks, the proper practice of Islam is that you purify yourself. In other words, if you want to go from Muslim to Mu'min, and if I say a word and you don't know what it means, Kathy, raise your hand, okay? Anybody here that doesn't know what I'm saying, I beg you, if I say a word and you don't want it, please raise your hand. Because you'll benefit the others that don't want to raise their hand, okay? Yes? What's Mu'min? Mu'min, thank you very much. So, Mu'min is one who actually believes. A Muslim says the Shahada, and the Quran and the Hadith say that when a person says Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasuluhu, the Shahada, it enters into their what? Head. And as they begin to practice, it moves down into the heart. And it begins to purify the heart. The mu'min, when you see that mu in the front of a word, it means a doer. So the mu'min, and one of the ways that the Prophet Muhammad described it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, a Muslim is one in whom you are safe from his tongue and hands. A mu'min is one in whom you can entrust your life and property. I think that says it even better. Because if everyone in here is a Muslim by that definition, no matter what I tell you, you will never throw it in my face. No matter whatever I tell you, you will never tell somebody else. You know what happened to Imam Sykes when he was a little boy? Oh my God, can you believe it? And you know what he did? And you know, that's called dragging logs through the fire. You know, there's a little fire about Imam Sykes. Before you know it, it's a bonfire. That's a Muslim now. I've not even got to Mu'min yet. Safe from his tongue and hands. Unfortunately, because we haven't purified ourselves today, most of us aren't even safe from the tongue and hands of our own brothers and sisters. Now let's just talk about for rizzle for snizzle here. How many agree with me? Raise your hand. We're not even safe from the hands and tongues of our own family because we have not purified ourselves. As a therapist, I see so much pain because we have not purified ourselves. Now that is a Muslim, safe from his tongue and hands. So I'm not ever going to hit you. I'm never going to speak horribly to you. I'm never going to curse you because I'm a Muslim. Now, if I'm a Muslim, you can say to me, you know what, Abdul Rahman, I'm going to go to college. And I'm going to go to Egypt to college. And I want you to take care of my house while I'm gone. When you come back, that house will be in the same shape that you left it or better. If I'm a mu'min. Your life and your property. So you can come to me and you can tell me anything about your life. And it will never ever come out of this mouth of mine. That's a mu'min. My vision for ISLAM is for everybody to be a mu'min. Not to be just Muslim. And let's look at something else. Islam talks about nafs amara, nafs lawama, nafs mutmaina, which are progressions, levels of development, stages of development within the soul. One is an unconscious soul. When you first become a Muslim and you say your shahada, you're pretty much unconscious. You aren't aware of sin yet because you don't know what the Quran says is a sin and what's not a sin. And then as you learn that and you become aware, then you, as you do things, you repent and then you do what?
Amen.
Amen. The teaching of Islam is that I am born on the zero, on the number line, with no sin. I'm clean. When I make a sin, I go to -1. In order to recover from that, I do 2 good deeds, and that puts me at a +1. And if every time in my life I do something that's contrary to Allah and His Messenger, I do 2 good things to purify myself, I will always be moving on the positive side of the number line. And that is the real practice of Islam. Surah 91, Ash-Shams, verses 7 to 10, consider the human self or personality and how it is formed in accordance with what it is meant to be. What is it meant to be? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I created men and jinns for naught except to worship me. We were created to worship Allah. We were created to submit to Allah. We were created to bring our limbs into submission to Allah. And if we do not on the day of judgment, they will testify against us. Our very deeds will become paradisial objects that will actually testify against us. So you're going to have a little deed up there in paradise saying, Abdul Rahman, he gossiped about so-and-so. Your tongue is going to say, no, you didn't serve Allah, you didn't say Allahu Akbar, you were talking about people, you were gossiping, you were slandering. Your hands are going to say, no, you didn't serve Allah. You were hitting the clubs and you were drinking and you were smoking and you were doing all kinds of other things with your hands. They are going to testify against you because they were born to serve Allah. You were bought by Allah. You see, there's a huge misconception in this country when you hear people say, this is my body, I can do with it what I want to. No, that's your biggest misunderstanding right there. You belong to Allah. Yes, brother.
So, based on that statement, would would different hairstyles be haram?
No different hairstyles are not haram.
So, if you were to fix your hair a certain way, would it be haram?
But you're taking care of it.
No, it's not. That's really not. You see, brother, let me tell you what's important. Now, if I'm wearing a hairstyle because of my ego, now let's look at something. My heart is, I want to be styling and profiling. I want to be posted up. I want to be looking good. I'm just a teacher. And I'm all about that. And it's all about how many people I can get to look at me. Then I got a problem. It's not the hairstyle that's the problem. It's my heart. I can have hair down to my knees. Wouldn't that be interesting? I just had a visual. I'm a visual kind of person, you know what I mean? I can have hair down at my knees. If my heart was right, it's not a problem with my hair. See, this is where we got to go. And let me speak a minute with all the love in my heart to parents. Choose your wars carefully. You know, some people say, oh, I don't want my son to cut his hair. I want my son to grow his hair. You know what I said to my son? As long as you don't come in here with a checkerboard hairstyle, I can handle it. That's not a war I want to get into you with. Because there's other things that are more important for us to deal with. But I couldn't handle that checkerboard. You know, a few guys at the time I worked in the prison. I wasn't in the prison. I want everybody to hear that I was a chaplain. I was not an inmate for 18 years in the prison system. And they were coming out with these really what I call, forgive me for judging, but crazy haircuts. All kind of like designs and tattoos on the head and stuff like that. If their heart's good, hey, alhamdulillah. But it's all about the heart. Does that answer your question, brother? Yes, sir. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Good question. So let's go back to this. Consider the human self. The soul, the ruh, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put into your mother was perfect. You were born perfect. Not one of you came out of the womb fighting. Not one of you came out cursing. Not one of you came out smoking. Not one of you came out drinking. Not one of you came out snorting. Not one of you came out doing any of that. But you started learning. You started watching people doing things that looks like a lot of fun right there, man. I think I would have tried that. Because you weren't safe from that person's hands. You weren't safe from that person's tongue. Because you know what they told you? You really should try this, man. It's cool. You want to be cool, you got to do this. They weren't a Muslim, so you got influenced by someone who you couldn't trust what they said. Temptations. Very good. You got it. You get the bonus points today. Alright. So consider the human self and the personality and how it is formed in accordance with what it is meant to be. Are you meant to smoke?
No.
If you were meant to smoke, God would have turned you upside down and made your nose a chimney. You know, are we as Muslims meant to drink? Are we meant to contaminate this brain that Allah gave us, that we submit to on the ground, and we say, oh Allah, I'm surrendering my brain to you?
I smoke cigar with my husband.
That's TMI. That's too much information. Alhamdulillah. Let me say this to you. Originally, the scholars many years ago did not say that smoking was haram. Why? They did not know that there were 3,000 chemicals in those cigarettes that were killing people. It's a slow suicide. We have sufficient information now to know about the destruction of these things. Your tongue was made to serve Allah. Your hands not to sit with the hookah pipe. I have to make sure I say hookah because one time I was teaching about this and they thought I was talking about hookers. No, it's hookah. Okay. Somebody raise their hand. Yes, sister, forgive me.
The other day I was discussing with a Orthodox Christian friend of mine about wine. I was saying not about to drink wine, and he said that Jesus made wine on the wedding of Cana out of the water. So he said that we were allowed to drink. So that's kind of like controversial.
This has to deal with abrogations.
Right.
There were things in the time of Jahiliyyah when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ came to Saudi Arabia. The majority of the Arabs there were date winos. Man, they were cooler than people at MacArthur's Park. They were doing poetry. They wanted it stamped up on the Kaaba wall. They were jahil. They were ignorant. But they drank their date wine. They lived on this patch of grass until it ran out. And I'm not talking about the kind you smoke. And then they moved to another patch of grass. Because it was that kind of nomadic society. It's okay to laugh, folks. We try to have a little fun in here with our learning. But the point is that they were alcoholics. Allah gave them 8 years to dry out before He actually prohibited. He said, don't come to your prayers before. So you know what some Muslims did at that time? They would stop drinking at night so they'd be able to pray Fajr. And this can be, you can check this out in history. But by the time the other parts of the days came, they couldn't go to prayer because their minds were befogged. That means they were high. Yes, sister.
Water, way back then, water was not always the best thing to drink either. So they did purify it, and I think my rationalization is that's why we had the wines and stuff like that. But as things got better in time and we got more knowledge, maybe that's why God said, okay, enough. You've had enough time in it. Now it's pure. You can have water.
All we know is Allah said it. If I'm a Muslim or a mu'min and I'm submitting to Allah, then I'm going to do what He said.
That's it.
But there were abrogations. So yes, the people before us drank. No question about it. And it was allowed then. For example, let me tell you some more abrogations. Prior to Islam, a woman in the Judaic law was the property of her husband. This is why still today in this country, people will say, this is my wife. Doesn't that sound like this is my property? Yeah. If you notice in the Muslim country, I mean in the Muslim community, I've been in this community since 2001. I probably don't know 30 couples that I can put them together as this is the husband and this is the wife. Because in Islam, women were given their own identity. Women did not have to change their names. They didn't have to give up their femininity. Allah gave it to them. Whose name are we going to be called by on the day of judgment? Our mothers. Allah emancipated the women, freed them, but prior to them, women had no rights. They could be thrown out for burning the toast.
My husband forced me to change my name.
Your husband forced you? Well, he was naughty, wasn't he?
From Bartla to Hub.
Okay.
Mom said, what are we supposed to say then?
Pardon me?
I am her husband?
Well, actually, no. Great question, brother. Tell me, why do you need to say anything?
Why are you introducing people in
Okay, well, when you are introducing people, okay, Noreen, come up here and role play with me. I would like everybody to meet Sister Noreen. Sister Noreen helps the organization in tremendous ways. She calls a lot of people when they're sick. She reminds people of events. Did I tell you everything you need to know about Sister Noreen?
And she's not your wife.
Is she your sister?
Huh?
Is she your sister?
She's my sister in Islam.
Oh,
Come on.
Is your wife's sister?
Yes, I can say, and she's my zawj. She is my other half.
She's a Tasmanian
Yes.
racket port gun.
Allah gave her to me as a gift. The greatest gift I ever had in my life, other than being a Muslim, is this woman. Don't misunderstand me.
Yes.
But does it make any difference if I present her as my wife?
No. Yes, that means that you're not available to anybody else.
But if I behave,
You're looking for a wife.
listen. I made it very clear that I'm not available. That I'm not available. Yes. Yes, sister.
I think what Imam Sykes is trying to say is that the history behind the word my wife is that she's my possession, property. Now we don't use it in the same way as we used to
Now, if I
before.
say this is one of my wives,
Also, if you say that this is one of my wives, let me just help you out, brother. If you say that this is one of my wives, you will be in my office next week with some therapy. I promise you that. But you see, the beauty of this, listen up, I think this is amazing. The beauty of this is that we are not identified by the fact that we are someone's husband or wife. We are identified by the fact that we are in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Yes.
I'm very proud of my wife. Don't misunderstand me. It's not like I'm trying to make sure people don't know she's my wife. I want people to know she's my wife. I'm sorry?
We know.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Oh, did I? Well, I'm trying to speak in the context here of what we're saying in the class. But I don't, she is her own identity Islamically. And she's not who she is because of me. Yes, I am her shepherd. I am her imam. But I'm not her dictator. The Quran says that believers conduct their affairs by mutual consultation. Ashura, Surah 5, verse 32, I believe. Am I right? Or 34. Somewhere around there. You can look it up. So, what difference does it make? It makes a lot in my own personal life, but why does the whole community need to know that she is my wife?
So they won't hit on her.
If she conducts herself in the proper way, I don't believe people be hitting on her. I can tell you that people are hitting on me.
No, not in Saudi Arabia.
We're not in Saudi Arabia, but we're not in Saudi Arabia. We in Orlando, Florida. And so I want to try to get somewhere with purification. Yes, sister.
Honestly, this was all in good spirit and joke, but I go back to what Sister Sadia said. What Dr. Sadia said, it is, we don't want to take this out of context. It was referred to in the past as property. And today we're not using that in the same context. No. We're not required to change our names when we get married, and we can pretty much, we have our own rights as individuals, and then we come together when we get married. I think that's, we can move on.
Thank you. Okay. Alhamdulillah. So, now, there was supposed to be a camera crew in here, so please don't be shy. They're just trying to take some pictures of the class for purposes of dawah. I don't know if they're going to show up, but maybe they're operating on Muslim Standard Time. Allahu Akbar. Okay. Surah 7 and verse 172. When thy Lord drew forth from the children of Adam from their loins, their descendants, and made them testify concerning themselves, saying, Am I not your Lord who cherishes and sustains you? They said, Yeah, we do testify. This least you should say on the day of judgment, of this we were never mindful. And this is about the meeting of the souls before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever breathed your ruh into your mother's womb. You testified that there was one God, right here. So this is where we're trying to go back to. We're always trying to, that's what a purification is about. We're trying to go back to that original state. Allah said, let